Coding interviews are one of the most intimidating parts about starting a career in software. The thought of facing someone and having to solve a hard problem in front of them is scary in of itself, and if on top of that you add the fact that those 45 minutes can have a lasting impact on your career and ultimately your life, it becomes as nerve-wracking as it gets. If you're new here, my name is Juan Carlos Fontecha and I'm a software engineer, and when I'm not caught in my day-to-day engineering work, I make videos about my journey navigating the tech industry, career growth, and what I've learned about this lifestyle. Despite how anxiety-inducing these experiences are, they are still the norm in the tech industry. So in this video, I want to share why I believe they are still so widely used and 3 strategies that helped me a lot when I was preparing for my own interviews. So why are they still relevant? Well, to come up with a somewhat objective answer, let's think of it from the other side of the interview. What are interviewers looking for? This is a tough question because it depends a lot on the company and the interviewer, but casting a wide net, problem solving, and navigating ambiguity are 2 likely things your interviewer is looking for. While seemingly rigid, software engineering work is also very creative by nature. There are 1,000 ways to build a given piece of software, but admittedly, some of them are better than others. And tech companies need to make sure that their solutions to complex problems are good enough to scale as a business. As a company, there's only so much you can learn from a regular interview. Asking a candidate about previous experiences dealing with certain situations allows you to get a sense of how they might perform on the job that you're evaluating them for. But it's impossible to get the whole picture just based on these questions. And hiring people is expensive, so companies need to find a way to fill the gap of the things they don't know about a candidate to make the most informed decision. One way to do this is throwing into the interview a situation that injects uncertainty and evaluate how the candidate navigates it. While that statement in itself is not exclusive to software engineering interviews, the most common way to do this in our industry is through coding questions. So you cutting through the ambiguity of a given problem and coming up with good ways to solve it is at the very least one demonstration that you can handle seemingly daunting and complex tasks and translate them into potential solutions. Wouldn't any brain teaser accomplish this? In part, yes. Coming up with solutions to brain teasers displays some of that creativity and problem-solving skills that interviewers are looking for. But remember that interviewers are trying to learn as much about you as possible in a very short period of time. They also need to make sure that you can actually translate those problem-solving skills into functional code. That's a big part of the job, after all. Coding questions might not be the most accurate reflection of what a regular software engineer does on a day-to-day job, but they are not completely unrelated either. Seeing someone actually write a bit of code to solve one of these challenges can tell you many things on top of their problem-solving skills. Things like their knowledge of computer science fundamentals, their domain over a language or platform, their ability to describe and explain code, their coding style, or their familiarity with coding best practices. These are all things that do overlap with the things you're going to be doing on the job. So trying to also bring them out in your interview is one way to maximize the learnings that your interviewer is actually getting from you in that short period of time. How to prepare for a coding interview. Now, talking about this could take an entire video series. So the fact that I'm using a couple of minutes towards the end of this video to get you started with some tips is by no means a reflection of the effort that this process actually takes. But I do want to share 3 things that helped me a lot to feel prepared for my own interviews. The most obvious one, practice, practice, practice. You can't underestimate the importance of actually putting in the hours to get better at coding questions. You might already be a fairly good developer and be pretty confident about your skills. You probably still need to put in the hours to get better at coding questions specifically. I've mentioned this already, but the skills of real-world development and those to solve coding questions don't fully overlap. So you need to make sure you're good at the latter, even if you're already pretty confident about your ability as a developer. It takes being good at both to truly maximize your chances to land that software engineering role. Get as comfortable as possible talking about your past experience. You need to have a very strong collection of stories from your experience. Think of these as your tool set to convince the interviewer that you're the perfect person for the job. These stories should be real situations where you've demonstrated in the past the qualities that the company is looking for to fill that position. Tailor and practice these so that you're ready to share them when your interviewer when they ask you about your experience. Since it's very likely that you will be asked these before your coding question, feeling confident about that first part of the interview is going to help you get in the right mindset to actually do some problem solving. The last thing you want is getting nervous or feeling unprepared because of this before even getting to your coding question. Get as comfortable as possible performing under stress. One of the biggest factors that can play against you is stress. It is very likely that you're going to be feeling nervous at the time of your interview, and it's one of those things that is very hard to replicate when you're preparing for it. One of the things that helped me the most is to try and get comfortable with this. If nerves kick in during your interview and they start getting the best of you, it will be much harder for you to intentionally recall all the preparation you've made because you'll be in a sort of fight or flight response. This is often called choking, and a more technical definition is provided by Sion Bylock, a cognitive psychologist specializing on the topic. Choking is suboptimal performance, not just poor performance. It's a performance that is inferior to what you can do and have done in the past, and occurs when you feel pressure to get everything right. Keeping a cool mind under stress will allow you to put to much better use all of the preparation you underwent, so seek out 1 or 2 nerve-inducing experiences prior to your interview so that you're no stranger to the feeling when the time comes, and try to reframe this anxiety as excitement. For me, it was putting myself on a stage and doing a solo singing performance in front of a relatively large audience a couple of weeks prior to my interview. It was extremely scary for me, but to this day, I still think it's one of the things that helped me the most to level my nerves when my interview came. To wrap up, feeling anxious and overwhelmed about an upcoming coding interview is completely normal. The good news is that you can treat the whole process with some of the strategies that you're learning to solve coding questions. Break down that intimidating process of preparation into more manageable chunks, and then find strategies to tackle those chunks one day at a time. Book different time slots to work on your coding questions, to practice your data structures and algorithms fundamentals, to tailor these stories about your past experience, and even getting comfortable with some levels of stress. You've got this. I would love to read in the comments below some of the experiences you've had with interviews in the past and any other tips that helped you prepare for them. If you enjoyed this video, I would also really appreciate it if you click the like button below. And if you want to join me in this journey of sharing what I learned from a career building software, also consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.